All right, usually takes a couple seconds for this thing to start, and we're 5 seconds in, so I think that's good. Hello, friends. Welcome back. I'm Christopher.
I'm Angela.
And we are, that's us, Dinosaur Omelet. Thanks for coming back, guys. We appreciate anybody who's stepping in tonight to chit-chat. If you're new here, like and subscribe to this wonderful channel so we can bring you some more of this fabulous content every week. You know, we're working pretty hard to give you, quality material, educational stuff, and it's free. We really want to encourage everybody out there, and that's particularly what tonight is about, is an encouraging video. We're going to talk about homesteading. Homesteading. What is homesteading? We're going to get into that. So a little bit about us. You want to give our brief bio?
We focus on jumbo wild Coturnix quail because they're awesome meat producers and egg producers. They lay
these things.
many eggs, and they're the largest variety of quail eggs. So we do hatch and sell locally chicks. Hey,
That's
Kelly.
Hey, Kelly. Hello again.
And then we, of course, have other animals for our family to support us in different self-sufficiency ways, to have like a layered system of meat and eggs.
Right on. Yeah, so small hatchery. We're located in Southern Lancaster County for you guys who are not familiar with us. And yeah, we specialize in jumbo quail. That's our primary homestead animal. That's our animal that provides the majority of our high quality protein. We raise chickens and bunnies.
And ducks.
But yeah, man, these quail, the whole reason we pursued them as an actual business was because they're so prolific. I mean, they produce a ton of eggs. And we do a ton of education here about that, like how to manage these critters for your egg and meat production so you can actually have a very healthy quality protein. And hi, Christina.
Oh, hi.
If you guys are watching this later and you see me just talking like that, we're doing live and the comments scroll up, and we like to say hi to all of our nice friends.
Hi.
Hey, Aaron. Yeah, so we really got into the quail because it was kind of a no-brainer. They were huge food producers, and so we started our homestead life, right? And that's what we're going to discuss tonight. We're not going to focus on the quail. It's more about the whole homesteading thing. But speaking of quail, here's a little cool tidbit of information we'll probably do a future video on. So during the coronavirus, everybody started raising quail. I guess the economic contraction, if you will, spurned a little bit of our biology to say, I better start saving food. Interesting thing, back in the good old days of the Great Depression, they weren't really that good, people were doing animal husbandry with pigeons. They were raising pigeons for their meat and eggs. However, pigeons lay eggs in a clutch, so they're not producing eggs every single day, at least from what I know. Anyway. We don't raise pigeons. Well, I don't want to eat pigeons. I would, but I'm not going to. Anyway.
Yeah, looks like we have some new visitors as well.
New visitors. Seed Weep. Marissa here from Philly. Hey, what's up, man? We're not that far from Philly. We actually have some folks who come down here from Philly on an occasion to pick up critter. Marissa, hey. I'm bending down because I have my iPad over here. We have a very low-tech setup.
Hi, Susan.
Hey, Susan, what's going on? That's my New Mexico friend. So, who else we got in here? Who else do we have? Marissa. It's Marissa? I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I guess so. She wrote her own name. She probably knows how to spell it. Welcome. Okay, so...
Oh, hey, Bill.
What's up, Bill? Welcome. We are going to move into this discussion about homesteading. Oh, Marissa got quail from us. Seed Weep.
Oh, okay.
She's a responsible party.
I have a long list of customer names.
I hope they're working out for you.
Yes.
I hope they're still healthy and happy.
Yeah.
And chattering away and producing eggs. So the homestead talk, we're going to move into that. Why I wanted to do this, particularly this time of year, it's getting into spring, and people are starting to do their gardens and, homesteady stuff. And there's a lot of people who, unbeknownst to a lot of you guys, if you're doing this kind of thing, this may strike you as unusual. People envy you. It's insane, but I don't really think about it much, but there's a lot of people who are like, oh, I wish I could do that. And occasionally, we meet people who are like, oh, that's got to be so nice. I'm like, yeah, it is. We dig holes, play with animal feces, fix broken things. It's a lot of work, but it's very rewarding.
Yeah.
I'm talking too much. Say something nice, please. I blabber too much. I had a coffee.
Oh, yes, you did. Yeah, I mean, so we try to encourage people to start pursuing their homesteading desires and dreams where they are, if possible, and in this most simple way, with like using, if you have a patio, having like a potted plant, vegetables growing in pots. There's all sorts of creative ways to do that. And if the quail, they can be raised in tiny housing and close to your house. You don't have to have a big yard. So yeah, and it is true. People, they desire that. I think it's good for our souls.
To the earth.
It's good for our souls to be outside, working in the dirt, touching the soil, smelling the plants, listening to the birds.
Yeah.
It's just, it's good for us. And yeah.
I agree with that. Okay, so homesteading. I'm going to talk about the definition of that word in a minute, but I'm going to go into the history of homesteading because it's really interesting. So I think homesteading has become more of a colloquial term. It's not really an official term. It's not clearly defined anymore, and I'm going to talk about that. But the history of homesteading, people have been doing this for many thousands of years, where they're essentially moving to a location and initiating a self-sufficient lifestyle. I mean, that's traditionally what it is. Homestead, the word homestead, and I was looking into this and doing my research because I like to do research, comes from Old English, him-stead, or ham-steed, however they pronounced it. It was Old English, homestead, and it meant exactly what it sounds like, home and your stead, and the stead was the land. And in fact, I was talking with Angela prior to this, if you look around the U.S., there's a million little towns called Hampstead or Hampstead. Hampstead or Hampstead. They're called that in many cases because when people move there, they call them homestead. That's my homestead. And that's how they got their name. I thought that was kind of interesting. Ask Google. He'll tell you the same thing. But that was interesting. So homesteading in the United States, we had the Homestead Act of 1862, right around the time of the Civil War. There is a homestead, PA. Well, that's exactly where that came from, right? They moved and set up a homestead, and everybody moved there. The Homestead Act of 1862, signed by Abraham Lincoln, is very interesting. It was an expansionist piece of legislation, I expect, to encourage people to move westward and start settling the lands. They were thinking to themselves, how the hell are we going to get all these Walmarts out there if nobody lives out there? So all these people started moving.
So that's an awesome.
Oh, thanks, Aaron. Yeah, so they started encouraging people to move via this Homestead Act, at which they basically gave you 160 acres for free. I mean, there was a fee associated with it, but the conditions were, produce agriculture on your land, live on your land, and you're going to sustain that land yourself. But you can go ahead and take it. These are public lands, like the parks or whatever, and there weren't necessarily parks, but they were public lands, and they transferred them over to the homesteaders who said, I don't like New York, I'm going out west. All you had to do is avoid getting killed by Indians, bears, and starving to death, dying dehydration, all those wonderful things that happen. Yeah. But the Homestead Act, it saw millions and millions of acres adopted by homesteaders very rapidly. And so it was during the late 1800s into the early 1900s that this acquisition of land was at its ferocity. And towards the end, the Homestead Act was repealed in 1976. But by that time, most of the good land had been acquired. The arable lands and the lands where you could grow had all been acquired. So really what was left was rocks, things that weren't really where you would be able to settle anyway. But I thought that was very interesting that Homestead Act instigated a great migration west for a lot of people.
Yeah,
did you know that? Oh, I taught you something new. Professor.
No, I think I did know that, but it's been a while since I read it. I was just wondering how they established the property lines for such a big space, and if they needed to, well, I don't know, just
That's a good question. I didn't look into the whole property line of the Homestead Act. That's actually an intriguing question.
Yeah.
But I thought it was interesting. Over 270 million acres of land were distributed under the Homestead Act, benefiting approximately 1.6 million homesteaders. I did take some notes, which is a really interesting fact. So the homestead, in the traditional sense, was I'm packing, I'm going, I'm self-sufficient. And they were self-sufficient. It wasn't like today's self-sufficient, where you still go to the grocery store once a week. They were very much self-sufficient. Of course, they would still go into town and get some provisions, but essentially they were living off their land. And today, in modern homesteading, if I'm going to transition, we're trying to mimic at least part of that. Angela, what do you feel? Give me some info. Modern homesteading. Here you go. You can take a look at my notes if you like.
Well, modern homesteading, there's, obviously there's a lot of development in technology and just way of life and conveniences and such. So we don't necessarily have to be living in such bare circumstances.
Yeah, I've noticed if you guys talk to and I've noticed there's this like zealot mentality with some of the homestead people. Like, I don't want nothing to do with nobody. I'm living off the land and off grid. Like, more antisocial. I mean, I do see that occasionally, and it's just a personal, the way people think. But, with modern homesteading, what I would encourage you guys to do is not think of yourself as, or think of if you're considering doing this, or if you're doing it like all or nothing at all. That's not how that should be functioning.
The common factors between traditional homesteading and modern is problem solving, being creative, and using what you have, and learning skills, and keeping skills, and passing skills along. But with the whole using what you have and just being creative, you can still grow all sorts of plants and stuff, like I mentioned earlier, in big pots, and you wouldn't do that, in the more traditional sense. So that's more modern.
Yeah, container gardening. Sure, like if you're living even in an apartment, you can call yourself a homesteader, even though you don't have a piece of land of your own. You can adopt part of this lifestyle. What is it, 340 million Americans in the United States? Most everybody is congested into a highly population-dense regions, along the coastlines. Of course they're not going to have a ton of land, but that should not discourage them from engaging in some kind of self-sufficient hobby or endeavor, especially if it's rewarding for them or if it provides for them. And particularly now, which I'll talk about in a minute with the coronavirus thing, people wanting to save money, wanting to feel more independent and self-sufficient, and to regain their sense of security. I think that was a huge issue during Corona apocalypse.
Yeah, it was such a shift and change for people's routines that it created, for a lot of people, anxiety, because they, realized they didn't have certain skills, and then saw the importance and the value in knowing how to make foods or preserve foods or to can. This is a real shift in our society and culture, which would be the whole having these big stores and buying foods just to have food for a week versus having a stock of foods as as a reserve, and also growing something of your own,
producing your own food, right?
Shift.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, guys, I made a fun little graphic today, which was a homestead glossary down in the description, which I make for, like, everything I try to make is for kids, like it's for the adults.
But we're children at heart, so it's like super, appealing to us too.
Yeah, but I want to make it so like you feel comfortable showing the kids too and reading through it. But some simple terms for a homesteading glossary. Anyway, I don't want to get too sidetracked because my brain is too off the place. So modern homesteading, I just want to define that at least as, question. We're in a 1/10 acre packed like sardines here in Utah, 30 feet from neighbors, so we do what we can. Well, that's awesome.
That's awesome.
And that's what you can do. You know, a homestead mindset is a lot like that prepper mindset, which is adaptation. Adapt to your circumstances and thrive in the circumstances. You
problem
don't.
solving.
Yeah, it's really, and I think that is those two mindsets have to be married today. Warning, book length comment coming. Okay, I'll get ready.
Thanks for the warning.
I'll look on my iPad because his phone doesn't hold it. Yeah, so there's two mentalities I think really have to be married. Is not just self-sufficiency, but that prepper type mindset. Not that you're preparing for the end of the world or anything, but that you're adaptable. That you can take a situation and see the positive in it and problem solve. That is a lot of what modern homesteading is, and always has been, is problem solving. But today there's so many benefits because of the availability of skills acquisition. You can learn so much freely and abundantly, and you know, on the internet, on here, on the YouTube. I mean, anything you want to learn, you can learn. Yeah, I'd say we're preppers, and I don't think that should have a negative connotation.
Yeah, we agree.
I don't think it does anymore. I think after that little apocalypse for beginners happened, like the end of the world for beginners, you know, introduce people to the fact that things aren't always stable in a modern, highly interdependent civilization. All right, so modern homesteading, like I was talking, there's two mentalities, adaptability, mindset, skills acquisition, and also production, self-sufficiency with your production. But within a modern context, we have a vast array of tools to allow us to thrive. I mean, right here, like you can run a business, a functioning business off your telephone, from your home, selling your veggies or whatever it is you're doing. You could not do that back in the 1800s.
Yeah.
They had very bad Wi-Fi back then, but you can do that now.
Yes.
So, you know, you do have things that, and people who are traditionalists, they got a big problem with this. Oh, I'm not using that. Do you remember when cell phones started coming around? You had the hardliners. I'm not using a cell phone. I got a landline. There were a lot of people doing that. Uh-oh. Here's a big one from Kelly. What is Kelly saying to us? Oh, it does. And homesteaders are constantly saying, we aren't preppers. I'm like, you kind of are. So I say you are therefore prepared. That's true. Oh, here's Susan. So I'm reading your thingy off of my iPad here because I have a terrible phone thing. For years, I've lived close as I could to the way my ancestors lived. Awesome. I had no electricity. I chipped ice and strained debris for water. Very good skills. I had vegetable and herb gardens and foraged for wild vegetables, mushrooms, and berries. I canned and dehydrated. That is awesome.
Wow.
My husband hunted deer, moose, wild rabbit, and quail. He fished year-round and lobstered seasonally. My husband hunted deer, moose, wild. That is really incredible.
Yeah.
I tamed a hide, only one, thank you. I made my own goat skin clothes and moccasins.
Wow.
Yes, some people called me crazy. I call you pretty awesome.
Yeah, and now you have a lot of skills.
A light change and a 100-watt solar panel and propane refrigerator were added, and then a shallow well with a hand pump. Oh, that's incredible. We have a hand pump. We don't have all the other stuff. None of the moccasins. Others camped out for a weekend for more to learn. I was injured and my life changed again. I do hope that you're adapting to the change.
Yeah.
For quite some time, I ended up in a city far removed from the way I had been living. I'm reading Susan's notes if you're listening to me read. This is a really incredible story.
Yeah.
Do you have a YouTube story about that? I think people would be fascinated by that because you lived the life. Fast forward 20 years, I am now a modern day homesteader doing my best to utilize the skills of days gone by.
Bill said that you should have a YouTube channel.
She does.
Yeah, I think so.
I believe you do, yeah. But you should do a story or have somebody interview you on that because
that's true.
Those are incredible skills and you actually apply them and you're not just, because you look online and you see people blabbering about, oh, you wrote a book. Oh, put that down in your comment.
Yeah.
And we'll link it up or send it to me on the Facebook and I'll link it because that's neat. I would like to read that. But yeah, people look online and you get a lot of information from people who don't really actually do anything. Or they do it once and it looks professional and it looks good and they got the lighting. But it's good to talk to people like Susan and others who've had tenured experience, who've been doing
Yeah.
these skills for quite a while and know how to do it. And it's not really a big deal to
Flock
them.
of Quackers, a prayer for every step.
Okay,
Oh, okay.
awesome. I'm
We'll
going
look
to check
it
that
up.
out.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, so that is some very awesome set of skills Susan was talking about.
Yeah.
All right, well, I'm going to move on now. Thank you again, Susan. That was really incredible. Modern homesteading, so we talked about that. And there's a lot of benefits to the modern homestead lifestyle.
Thank you for reading. I
told
thought
you
it was long.
That's
Yeah,
fine.
no problem.
Thank you for the note.
Yeah.
All right, so in our modern homestead, you guys, take advantage of the tools available to you, okay? We don't have to live... I mean, I understand the mentality of bushcraft skills, like I'm going to start a fire with a stick. I start a fire with a lighter. I could start it with a stick, but there's no reason to do that. I mean, once in a while I might start it with a stick.
Yeah, I
It's
mean, it
been a
wouldn't
long
hurt
time.
to have the understanding of how to start it with a stick if for some reason you
These
don't
are
have your
great
lighter.
skills to have.
Yeah.
But all I'm saying is, you know, why walk around the whole building when you can open the door and go straight through? You know, take the easy way out in this context within your homestead. You want to be efficient is what I'm getting at. So use the tools that are going to help you be efficient. Don't be lazy, be efficient. You know? And do get the skills like making fires with sticks.
I have flint, but use a Bic.
Right,
Yeah.
right. You know, and redundancy. That's more the prepper thing. 1 is none, 2 is 1. You have redundancy. And you want to have redundancy at the homestead. We do with our animals, right?
Right.
Quail,
Like a
bunnies,
layered
chickens.
system.
Christopher, I was thinking the other day how easily you'd win Survivor. You and Aaron Gee would both do well on it. I would probably eat him because I wouldn't survive too good. But then I'd win. I'm just kidding. I wouldn't eat you, Aaron.
He always says if we get stuck somewhere and there's like, you know, a little bit of food left and we have to like, you know, keep it for a week, he's like, I'm
eating all the food. Yeah. My plan is during Survivor is sneak off, eat all the food at once.
So I'll have to break his leg.
And then be diplomatic and be like, ladies and gentlemen, you don't understand. I needed the energy to serve you best. I needed all the energy so I could serve you and work hard here.
I'm gonna eat him. Uh-huh.
All right, so modern homesteading is no eating of people, but...
Right.
Yes, I really want to stress, guys, though, use... With Dolly Pig, no way.
She would not.
Really use the tools available to you today in modern times. I have a video on here, and something that's popular is pallets, like trash, repurposing stuff. I made a bunch of chicken coops and stuff and quail hutches out of pallet wood, and they were solid, rock strong, a fraction of the cost of something at retail, right? And it was skill development too. So each time you build something, you get better at it each time. So I'm going to move on to our next session of this thing here.
What do we have here? Mag scratcher.
Mag scratcher and tinder. Well, I had sometimes that the fire wouldn't cooperate doing the AT, which is the Appalachian Trail for anybody who's not from around here. Yeah, I use the sparker. The fire stick. What do they call it? I can't believe I forget it. Ferro rods, which are great. I mean, they're fine. Like all these things, again, are redundancy. Making a fire, like there's more than one way to do it, and people should know more than one way to make a fire. There's more than one way to cook something, and you should know more than one way, etc., etc. And that's how you layer things. That's old school homesteading, and that is still modern homesteading. Because it increases your efficiency. You know, you always have a backup plan. You're not going to be wigging out and having anxiety attacks because, oh no, this didn't work. You know what to do. You move into the backup plan. All right. I want to talk about the growth of the popularity in homesteading. We kind of talked about that briefly, actually, already. The old corona came through. So here's the thing. Over 35% of the American households, I looked this stat up, 35% of households were participating in gardening in the year 2020. It had exploded. I think I forget. I don't want to give you a misquote. I think it doubled. It increased very, very much that year during the corona thingy. People started learning self-sufficiency skills. If you guys remember, there was a housing mini crisis during that time, during the shutdowns. People were, what were they doing? They were working remotely. They were moving out of congested cities. They got the bug, man. You know, like before a fire,
Yeah.
all the critters run out, or before an earthquake, they got the bug in them, and they started moving out of the cities and buying properties up in the rural communities, up in rural areas, and they started raising animals. A lot of people had zero skills too. You know, and if that's you, if you're new and you're like a first generation doing this, that's awesome. That's not bad. That's really awesome. You know, people, you're gonna run into the real jackays who are gonna be like, man, you don't know what you're doing. You know, okay. That's why we are humans. We learn. So if you're new to this, it's really awesome. There's a lot of good information on these YouTubes in your community, and talk to the older people, you know, older generations, because they love to pass on the gifts and the skills they have, and they don't really have anybody to talk to about it.
Yeah.
So yeah, during the corona, man, the whole homesteading thing exploded. People started, I'm homesteading, and they were just growing a potato, but that's fine. You know, if that's what you want to call it, that's fine. You're getting into the door of a self-sufficient lifestyle, which is rewarding.
Yeah. Bill says, I made sourdough long before the scamdemic. I don't have TV service.
So I have no clue what big cat show people were watching. Yeah, that's right.
What is it, the
They're
Tiger
watching
King?
Tiger Man or something.
That's funny. Yeah. Well, good for you. I mean, you're not missing much. And I think the best thing to come out of the virus was everyone who started to go down the self-sufficiency path. Yeah.
Yeah, ma'am.
Yeah.
That's so true, and like everybody started learning things.
And it's opening up communities to, you know, bring markets and you know, socialize and work together in smaller communities rather than the central locations.
Yeah, within in a complex system, like a complex operation, there's an expectation of outcome, but there's also something called emergent properties. I wouldn't use it sociologically, you might use it in computing or something. But there's this emergent property of the homesteading and people moving out. They began to be interacting again and having community. So they had this new unexpected kind of result where people are now socializing, and you know, they're becoming spiritual, and they're getting more philosophical and beginning to understand themselves a little more. Where it wasn't just satisfying fear. Maybe they were satisfying fear, but then we had this new sociological event kind of manifest from that too. We had a nice note. Do you want to read it? You're good at reading.
Let's see. My wife and I were just talking about how grocery bills are getting so high and how to save money by gardening and raising quail for meat and eggs. Thank you for all the educational videos. Yeah, of
All
course.
things EDC. Is that your YouTube? I'll check that out. That's Everyday Carry. I'm assuming it's Everyday Carry. Speaking of which, I just bought a new pocket flashlight. I'm going to take a look at it. It's supposed to be super, super bright and high quality, but we shall see. So,
Yeah.
if you guys have any questions too about any of what we do here, or if you have a request for like a video on a how-to or something like this, or whatever, just pop it down in the comments or send it to our the Facebook. Because we get a lot of messages on the Facebook. We always get to them.
Yeah.
All right, a couple more sections. I like this subject. Do you like this subject?
Yeah. This, you know, this is like what we do. This is our
Yeah,
interest.
this is
So, yeah,
kind of what we
I
do.
like this subject.
And it's actually what a lot of what you guys do, like the viewers for these kind of channels. A lot of the viewers for these channels obviously are either actively living on a homestead or raising animals to some capacity or gardening. They're engaging in self-sufficiency.
The canning and the preserving of foods and stuff. Yeah.
Okay. I think we talked about this so much. I don't even know if I need to mention it. The objectives of homesteading. I wanted to make that a separate thing. Oh, Susan was saying something. I like to read the messages you guys write, so that's why I'm reaching over here. I like to make flatbreads. I don't have TV either, Bill, so I don't have any idea what shows people are watching either.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah,
You're not missing much.
We don't watch the television either. I
Yeah.
watch, like if I'm going to watch a TV show, it'll be on Saturday morning, and it'll be an old 1980s cartoon show.
Yeah, it's usually a cartoon.
While I'm making breakfast.
If we're watching a show, it's like a cartoon. Otherwise, we might watch like an older movie.
Oh, yeah.
Once in a while.
As a side note, and if you get offended, I don't really care, but this is my side note. The television today and the culture supported in the media is disgusting. It's disgusting. I mean,
Yeah.
it's dehumanizing. It's vulgar. And I'm supposed to be a lunatic for saying this, like I'm out of place. Oh, what's wrong with you? Here's this, I like to say this. I'm going to throw this out there, so use it all the time. Just because it's normal doesn't mean it's right, you know? And the normal today on the TV, Bill and Susan, and anybody else who watches this, it's kind of reprehensible.
Yeah. There's a reason it was called the idiot box. There, I said it.
Yeah, it does kind of.
Yeah.
I mean, we use the again, like we use the internet to learn, to get information. Like I learn a lot of stuff off of here, but
like with the whole TV and a lot of other things, it just kind of, the intention was to get people to focus on, Kelly says, I can't find that book she wrote. The intention was to get people, you know, watching it and focused and distracted on it. And before the corona, what do you call it?
Corona apocalypse.
Yes.
Corona apocalypse.
You know, people were so stuck in their routines and what they were doing and just kind of like letting life go by. And this isn't everyone, obviously, but that huge change just kind of jolted a lot of us out of what we were doing. And the whole TV watching. Some people ended up watching TV like a lot then, but a lot of us, you know, realized that I'm not going to waste my time anymore. I'm going to do something with myself and make food and pursue education and learning stuff. And a lot of people really did, you know, benefit. And the TV is, you know.
Somebody said something very funny to me about this. And she said, during the corona thing, everybody either got really fat or really in shape. Because they either went lazy or they're like, oh my God, I got to do something. And then they did something. So they were learning or building or doing whatever it was. All right, so the objectives of homesteading obviously are a level of self-sufficiency. How far into that you're going to be, like my view is there's no way any single human being is going to be self-sufficient indefinitely. We are tribal creatures. We grew up in, you know, tribes and numbers. We had our specialties even many long time ago. We had specialties within our tribe. Maybe I was sewing or hunting woolly mammoths, who knows? But I would contribute my skill set to the group of other individuals who would provide their skill set and protection. Okay? This lone wolf mentality, I mean, it's admirable, but does anybody actually put it into practice for a sustained amount of time and maintain their sanity? Oh, yeah, of course, Susan. I'm not like a YouTube nut. Yeah, whatever. Yeah, absolutely. Please put your link, because I would encourage people to check out your story.
Yeah.
I mean, just what you wrote here was really fascinating. Yeah, so being self-sufficient is, of course, an objective of the homesteading. How much you're going to be doing that is up to you. And like we suggest with everything, do things incrementally. Don't just quit your job and move out in the middle of nowhere with no skills or no understanding of anything. Keep your job. Learn how to bake some bread. Plant a tomato plant. You know, incremental things.
Even people do sprouts. You know, like inside they'll have like plant lights and grow sprouts and incorporate that into their daily diet.
Better for you than multivitamins. Very nutrient rich and bioavailable.
But we're always talking about like goal setting. Figure out what your objectives are, what your desires are, long term and short term, and you know, make sure to understand obviously the needs, financial needs with having a full-time job, part-time job, you know, however that works, and you know, pursue this lifestyle in a way that suits you, like Christopher said, and is a smooth transition and it adds to your life.
Which leads us right into section E, transitioning into the self-sufficient lifestyle. So transitioning without abandoning your current life. Oh, here's Kelly. I learned to feed a fly trap today and learned to, what did you say? Bake sourdough bread this week.
Cool.
Oh, awesome. Yeah,
That's
she
awesome.
sent me her Venus flytraps.
Oh,
That's awesome, Kelly.
That's cool.
So transitioning into a more self-sufficient lifestyle without leaving regular life. That's really the way to go about doing this.
Which goes into the whole topic of what we're talking about, like more modern homesteading.
Modern homesteading.
Yeah.
What she mentioned previously, however, is extremely important. Your goal. Like, what are you doing and why? You know, investigate And we always go over this.
Yeah.
The why. Why? What is your motivation? What is instigating you to action? Understanding that. Like
That why is what's going to keep you on track. The goals and the goal setting, writing it down, figuring it out, and the why is what's going to keep you on track and what's going to keep you motivated and moving forward.
And psychologically, too, when you investigate your motivation, you're going to be able to compartmentalize and determine whether or not it's an emotional thing or there's reason, logic, and structure behind it. Like, I want to move out into the middle of the woods. My reason why? Because I don't know what's going to happen here. Well, that's not a good reason because now I'm making impulsive emotional decisions. But I want to move out into the woods. Why? Because I feel at peace there. I don't feel appropriate in this congested city. I remember that as a kid, and like I have all these other reasons why it's fulfilling to me emotionally, but rationally I'm investigating it. So understand your why in a healthy context, like the healthy part of why you're doing something and what your drive is, rather than an impulse. Because we're humans. We're very easy to motivate on impulse, and we motivate ourselves on emotional impulse all the time. And we do stupid things because of it. That's just how we are. I mean, that's how we learn, but goal setting for this transition is going to be exceptionally important. Okay. And then you modify your goal as you're going along. It's like, oh, I changed my mind about this thing because I've learned more and I'm going to do this instead. And that happens too. It's not set in stone. It's malleable. You can change your goal, but at least have a goal so you can measure your progress. Make sense?
Yeah.
All right. Getting that out of the way because that was a good point.
Yeah.
Transitioning into this lifestyle without leaving your regular life. Like you said, skills, learn skills.
And look at what your environment is, what your home is, the footprint, and what do you have available for you?
What if I live in an apartment?
Well, do you have space to put pots down? Can you change a closet into kind of like a little greenhouse with lights?
I could do that, yeah.
And grow some sprouts or grow some vegetables. Do you have a little patio or a little porch that gets some sunlight?
Is there a co-op garden in the neighborhood? People do that too. There's always like the communal gardens you could look into.
Is there rooftop space?
Which, yeah, by the way, get into a group if you have no skills. If you can find a communal garden, tons of skills, because gardening is a skill. And it's really one of the most efficient food production mechanisms you're going to have. A garden produces tons and tons of output because you got the sun. The sun's doing most of the work, okay? But you need the skills to know how to maintain your plants, and you can start producing tons of output. I'm not a good gardener. I keep the stuff alive, but it's a huge skill.
Do you have a little bit of space to have any animals? Like we mentioned already, the jumbo quail, they don't need a lot of space. You don't need very many if you want to have eggs daily. Meat rabbits are quiet and they're easy to take care of.
Urban homesteading, like a transition, we have customers who raise quail in the city. Like they're producing food in the city. We have one guy who's really cool, who's producing quail and bunnies and
he's doing the
aquaponics.
Yeah.
Aquaponics, like raising little fishies and plants, and the fish water is actually very nutrient dense as a fertilizer. But yeah, so even in the urban setting, we know actual living humans who are producing food, producing and substantial food, not just like hobby amounts.
Yeah, and also, you can learn how to can fruits and vegetables and meats, and you can go to farmers markets. You can investigate farms nearby that have healthy meats for good prices, and you can just make your rounds to different locations to collect fruits and vegetables and meats and eggs if you're not able to have them and produce them at your own place, and then learn to can and preserve these foods, and then you can have a stocked pantry really quick. I mean, it takes effort, but you can have a stocked pantry with healthy foods that you pursued and preserve yourself, and then you can look into the sources and the farms and the locations and find out how the things were grown, if there's any chemicals used or not. So you can also get milk, all sorts of things if you don't have space.
Yeah.
We did just get a call. Sorry, Susan.
Yeah, Susan said, I did not really know what aquaponics was until I read your glossary infographic.
I'm
Awesome.
glad it was helpful.
I'm glad somebody read that. Or, you know, I put a lot of work into those stupid infographics. I mean, I like doing them, but they're fun.
I'm the secretary of a community garden. It's an amazing way to meet people with similar values. Yeah,
that is really awesome. Mauricia, right? I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. That's really cool. So we had a real live human on our video right now who's in a community garden where people learn how to do things like grow all these wonderful, amazing foods, become self-sufficient that way. And I mean, it's a rewarding experience. I think with that Corona thing in the back of everybody's head, it's still like plop there. They're like, oh my God, we're living at the end of the world. I got to be able to provide for myself. Yeah, that's all wonderful, but you got it. Thanks. But it's also extremely personally rewarding to do these things. It's therapeutic. Putting your hands into the dirt, having something, you know, grow, come to life and produce for you, that's rewarding. It's not just satiating this impending doom or fear, or I need to be self-sufficient, or I'm trying to save a buck, or whatever it is. You're at peace. You know, these places put you at peace, especially in today's world. Everything drives us a little anxiety-ridden and wacky. So these places and these things we're doing, incorporate them into your life to help bring peace and satisfaction. Not strictly just a, practical objective of I want food. Does that make sense? Okay. I bet Mercy knows what I'm talking about. I bet the community garden, people say that all the time.
That's kind of lopsided.
Yeah, I'm going to lose that. So, anything else I was mumbling about? I forget what I was getting to. You know, towards the end of these videos.
We were talking about the modern.
Yeah, I kind of lose my, this is why I write these notes. I kind of lose my spot at the end of these things. Adaptation. Okay, I don't need to read this anymore. But to do like a brief overview of everything we just yapped about in the beginning, original homesteading here in the U.S., dude would give you 160 acres, just take your mule and your stuff out there, build a house, grow some veggies, grow a garden, do some agriculture, grow swines or horses, whatever you're doing out there, and take care of that land. And that Homestead Act saw hundreds of millions of acres going out to people. And it was a huge boom, and that instigated that Western drive during the mid to late 1800s. Today's homesteading, we look on Netflix to learn how to catch a fish. We look, not Netflix, what do you call it? The YouTube. We look on the YouTube to learn how to catch a fish or dig irrigation trenches or things like this. So, you know, so we do have modern conveniences, but it's rooted in traditionalism, and it's rooted in, our self-sufficient history and background. Not just culturally, but biologically. We are designed this way, and we've been doing this for thousands of years.
Yeah.
You can start talking nonstop.
But yeah, it is instinctual, and it does bring people together, whether that's a community or whether that's you and your family, your kids, or greater family members or friends. Like it's definitely valuable to learn skills that speak to us how we instinctively operate. How being outside in the sunlight and soaking in that vitamin D, seeing the blue sky, seeing the green, nurturing plants, nurturing animals, seeing the result. It's good for your own personal growth, and it just helps you see like something go from one point to another point, and you can see progress. You learn so much from things that don't turn out well. Maybe a plant doesn't grow right, but then you explore and find out how to problem solve. And then it's just so much room for bettering oneself and growing as an individual and as a family unit. And then on top of that, homesteading or being self-sufficient in any way that works for you, it just adds, like Christopher had mentioned, that some peace of mind, knowing that you can contribute to your health, the quality of your life, the quality of what you're consuming by growing or producing or even connecting with people to get vegetables and fruits and animal products and different things that you want to eat that are healthy and don't have chemicals all over. It's not going to poison you, and you can have...
Impress your friends. They're like, oh my God, I got these fresh eggs.
And then animals that are living happy, healthy lives, not in these tiny boxes or horrible...
Medium-sized boxes.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
So it's
The
just
chickens
so much
are out,
benefit.
everybody's happy.
And even if it's a small, even if you're learning something incrementally and adding, in a small way.
It's the best way to learn.
It's just so much satisfaction because we're meant to learn and be creative and all that stuff.
Yeah, man. Like, what is it? Everybody's like doing this.
Yeah.
Fill that brain because it's, I always say this. I don't know. I've probably mentioned this on here before. The beauty of knowledge is this, okay? We all like music. We all enjoy music. But the musician has a much deeper and intimate appreciation for it because he understands it and he's learned about it.
Yeah.
So he's able to appreciate it at a deeper level. So the more you learn about these things, you don't have to be an expert, but the more you understand it, the more you appreciate it. You look at a tree, you might say, oh, it's a pretty tree. But when you understand the complex biology and the synergistic functioning of all the little organisms and the mosses and stuff, it becomes a much more beautiful thing and you appreciate it much deeper. I hope that makes sense. Like your knowledge, it's not about being a stuffy academic, hoity-toity. It's about enjoying your life. Learn things and you enjoy them and then you share them. It's our human gift. All right, that's what we're doing here. It's modern stuff. So we do it on the internet. So if you were here in person, we'd be saying the same thing.
Yeah.
But I hope all that made some sense.
Yes, and yes.
Oh, thanks, Susan. Yeah, I really appreciate you guys coming by. The whole thing with these videos is to encourage you to do something and grow. That's it. You decide, and it doesn't have to be homestead stuff, just anything that's going to put you in a positive forward position. Learning your language, learning an instrument, reading a book you've been meaning to read, whatever it is, that forward momentum for personal growth
and quality of life
and enrichment, and as well as enrichment with your community and family, and doing these things definitely will allow that to happen.
Yeah,
I think makes sense. I hope. All right. Okay, guys, I guess that'll about do it. Another wonderful episode here on the Dinosaur Live internet program. If you have any questions, please drop them down in the bottom. If you want to reach out to us, we have the internet or the home thing. I had my first homegrown omelet today.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
And they're the most delicious. An egg's never as good as the one you made yourself.
Yeah.
We eat a ton of eggs, man. But and eggs are good for you. Thank you for allowing me to share and for everything you both do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks, Susan. No, we appreciate you stopping in and telling that really amazing. Because after this is over, I'm going to go back into the notes and read what you wrote because I thought it was really, really cool.
Yeah.
And ladies and gentlemen, read Susan's comments up there about her homesteading and self-sufficient skills. It's really cool. All right. Well, I guess that about does it. We'll see you on the next one. I'm going to click off.
Was mostly listening while doing chores. Great live stream, guys.
Oh,
thank
thanks,
you.
Erin. I appreciate you stopping in. I really do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
thanks, Kelly.
When I'm on here on the YouTube, it's usually I'm listening to, I don't really listen to the YouTube. I listen to
Podcasts?
I guess educational stuff. I just like to hear somebody talking and try to learn. I'm not a brainiac. But I guess it's my ADHD brain. I get bored very easily with just entertainment.
Sorry, I had to step away from... My son is in the hospital. Oh,
I'm sorry to hear that,
everything is okay.
Yes. I hope he's okay.
Yeah.
And I hope he does well. And I hope he's out soon.
Yeah.
And, thanks for coming in. And you guys, great live tonight. Thanks.
Have a great night, everybody.
Thanks
you
for
guys.
Stopping in. Yeah. We'll see you in the next one. I'm clicking off.
Bye.